You know the feeling? You're on the couch, watching a film from another country, and your eyes are just glued to those little white words at the bottom of the screen. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's going on with those subtitles? It turns out it's way more complex and, honestly, way more fascinating than you probably imagine.
I mean, really think about that. We just assume that subtitles are a direct, one-to-one thing, right? A simple window into another language. But the truth? Translators are making these huge creative leaps. They're not just transcribers, they're artists. And today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at their craft.
Okay, but before we get to the absolute genius of it all, let's start with something we've all felt. The frustration of just plain bad subtitles. You know, that moment that just yanks you right out of the movie.
This is the classic complaint, isn't it? Maybe you know a few words of the language, or you just have this gut feeling that the emotion of the line doesn't match the text on screen. So you lean over to your friend and whisper, "Hey, that's not what they said." And you know what? You are probably right. But the reason it's different, well, that's the really interesting part.
Sometimes the results are just hilarious. I mean, take the legendary bootleg translation of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. You've got Darth Vader's iconic, soul-crushing no, and the subtitle reads, "do not want." It completely loses the raw despair and just replaces it with, what, mild inconvenience? It's a total failure of tone, and while, yeah, we can laugh about it, it absolutely wrecks the impact of the scene.
Other times, though, it's a little more problematic. Imagine a character tells a super clever joke that only works because of a specific cultural pun. A literal, word-for-word translation would make absolutely zero sense to anyone else. So a lazy subtitle might just say, "tells a joke." And just like that, the humor, the character's wit, the entire point of that line, poof, it's gone.
And look, this whole frustration is a huge part of that eternal debate, right? Dubbing versus subbing. Now, dubs have to worry about matching lip movements, and that's a whole different can of worms. But subtitles, they're under this unique pressure to get across meaning, tone, and context in just a few words you can read in a couple of seconds. Neither method is perfect, but they're both wrestling with the exact same problem.
So, this leads us to the real heart of what we're talking about today. We've all been kind of conditioned to think that a good subtitle is a literal one. But what if I told you that the very best translations are often the ones that are the least literal? That's the tightrope every single translator has to walk.
So you have to ask, what is the actual goal here? Is it just to give a dictionary word-for-word translation of the dialogue? Or is it to make the audience feel the exact same thing the original audience felt? To make them laugh at the same joke, feel that same knot of tension in their stomach, or gasp at the very same reveal? That is the crucial question. And this is exactly why our default assumption that literal is better is so often wrong. A literal translation can be clunky, awkward, and just plain confusing. Think about an idiom we use all the time, like "it's raining cats and dogs." Now imagine translating that literally into another language. It would just be bizarre. The words are technically correct, but the meaning is completely, utterly lost.
Which brings us to the alternative, adaptive translation. This is where the real artistry comes into play. The translator stops acting like a dictionary and starts acting more like a writer. Their goal isn't just to translate the words, it's to adapt the line to create the same effect. They're translating the intent behind the words.
Okay, this is where it gets really cool. Let's stop talking about the failures for a minute and start looking at the hidden genius of translators who absolutely nail this adaptive approach. They're the ones turning subtitles into their own unique art form.
So what does it actually look like when a translator gets it perfectly right? These people are the unsung heroes of cinema, really. Their work is often so good you don't even notice it's happening. But when you actually break it down, it is truly brilliant.
Let's look at an amazing example from Bong Joon-ho's masterpiece, Parasite. Okay, so there's a scene where the rich Mrs. Park calls her housekeeper. She asks her to prepare a dish for her son called japaguri. Now, right away, this is a massive problem for any translator.
So the original word is japaguri. If you translate that literally, you get something like japaghetti and neoguri, which are just two specific brands of Korean instant noodles. For a global audience, that means absolutely nothing. But the translator, Darcy Paquette, did something incredible. He came up with ramdon. He literally invented a word by combining ramen and udon, and then had the characters mention topping it with expensive sirloin steak.
So why does this work so well? Ramdon brilliantly communicates the entire theme of the scene and really the whole movie.
It's about taking something cheap and everyday, like instant noodles, and trying to dress it up with something ridiculously expensive, like sirloin steak. It translates the film's core idea of class tension into a single food item that everyone everywhere can instantly understand. It's not literal, but it's way more truthful to the film's message than a literal translation could ever hope to be.
So how on earth do they do it? I mean, it's clearly not just about being bilingual. Translators are working with a very specific set of tools and, maybe more importantly, a really challenging set of constraints.
Just imagine the pressure they're under. You can only fit so many letters and spaces on a single line. Then you have to make sure the audience can actually read the whole thing before it vanishes. And it all has to sync up perfectly with the fast-paced action on screen. A character might say a long, complicated sentence in 2 seconds flat. That is a translator's nightmare. They have to cut, condense, and adapt, all while trying not to lose the original meaning.
So their process is way more like a writer's than a computer's. First, they have to analyze the context. Is this a gritty crime drama or a lighthearted rom-com? The tone is everything. Then, they have to identify the intent. Is this character being sarcastic? Are they threatening? Are they flirting? Only then, after all that, can they adapt the line for maximum impact, all while juggling those insane technical limits we just talked about.
Now, you might be thinking, well, can't AI just do this now? And yeah, for literal, word-for-word stuff, AI tools are getting pretty good. But can an algorithm understand sarcasm? Can it grasp deep cultural context? Can it have the creative spark to invent run-on? Not yet. That level of artistic adaptation, that still requires human ingenuity. And when we really start to appreciate that human ingenuity, we see that subtitles are so much more than just text on a screen. In our world, which is getting more connected every day, this art form is more important than ever. It's about connecting with stories, and through them, connecting with each other.
This right here is the key takeaway. A great translator isn't just giving you the script in another language, they are giving you access to the entire world of the film, its culture, its emotions, its unique way of seeing things. They are literally building a bridge for you to walk across.
And that's why this matters so much. High-quality, thoughtful translation allows these incredible stories to cross borders and find new homes with new audiences. It fosters empathy. It creates a much deeper understanding of cultures that might be very different from our own. It's breaking down barriers, one perfectly crafted line at a time.
So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you're watching a foreign film and your eyes drop to the bottom of the screen, are you just going to passively read the words? Or are you going to look a little closer and maybe, just maybe, try to see the countless creative choices, the cultural bridges, and the hidden artistry of the translator at work?